Good morning and welcome to your manual handling training. I'm Jenny, the manual handling trainer for SASH. Today we're going to look at this piece of equipment which is known as a stand aid. This piece of equipment, as with our hoists, falls under the lifting operations and lifting equipment regulations, which say that every 6 months, because it's used for lifting, it must be checked by an appropriate and assessor. And as with our hoist, we have a sticker on here which shows that our stand aid was assessed back in February 2021 and is next due at the end of the summer. It's also important to make sure that your patient is within the safe working load of the machine, which, as you can see here, is 200 kilograms. Before you use the piece of equipment, please do the following checks on it. Make sure it is clean. Make sure that everything works, like your brakes, and that the machine itself works before you bring it into the patient. Also make sure that you've checked the patient risk assessment and that this is the correct piece of equipment to use with your patient. So the type of patients that we would use with this stand aid are those who must be able to stand up themselves. They don't need to have a great deal of upper body strength, and also it's most likely that they wouldn't be able to walk at all or very much, but they must be able to get up to a stand themselves and to maintain standing balance. And this is important for when we actually get them upright, that we're then going to move them onto either a toilet or a commode or into a chair. You'll see that the sling that we use for our patients are very different to the hoist slings, and this should be the way that you remember which is which. This is much smaller. This particular one is a washable sling that we use for training, but on the wards they should be disposable, because again they should be single patient use. If the therapists have given you a washable sling, it should only be used with one patient and then be washed if it's then going to be used for another patient. You'll see that as with our slings for our hoist, these are colour coordinated, and again that relates to the size. So this one with the yellow edges is the medium size, and there are also colour coordinated loops on it. So again, we're going to have very clear communication with our patient as to what we want them to do and what we're going to use this equipment for. So first things first, we would request that our patient sits forward in the chair so that we have access to their back in order to fit the sling. If they can't do that themselves, then we would assist them to lean forwards. Again, this is a piece of equipment that you would have 2 members of staff from SASH using. You could sit back for me. And what we do is that we have a Velcro strap, and we just need to do this up fairly loosely. It doesn't need to be very tight. And then we have 2 sets of buckles here. Again, when you're doing this, you should check that this is all in good working order and nice and clean. We then put these bits underneath our patient's arms, and we then bring in our stand aid. It's really important that we give our patients some very clear instructions for the use of this piece of equipment. We ask the patient to put their feet on the grey foot plate with their knee up against the knee pad here. There is an adjustment facility here so that you can raise or lower this knee plate, because it should be just below the patient's kneecap. If you find that the patient is pushing the stand aid away with their feet, at this stage you can then put the brakes on. But as with our hoist, when we use this piece of equipment, you have the brakes off. So at this point, we're now going to fit the calf strap, which is this green strap down here. And you fit this and bring it snugly into our patient. And we then fit these loops. So we fit them behind the metal clip here and check that everything is in place. The commands that you give your patient are really important. So you should instruct your patient to lean back, and when the machine starts, to bring themselves up to a stand. This is not going to hoist them off the ground. And if they don't make an attempt to stand themselves, what it will do is actually drag them up under the armpit, which is going to be really dangerous and very uncomfortable. So they must lean back and bring themselves up to a standing position. The patient can hold on to the machine as it starts to move, but what I suggest you do is to wait until this bar moves upwards, and then the patient can hold it like that. If they hold on to it now, as they move upwards, they're going to have to change their grip, which could make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, Priscilla, so what I'd like you to do is to lean back in your chair, and as the machine starts, bring yourself up to a standing position. We're going to use this fast setting on here again, which is the fatter up arrow. As you can see, the machine self-adjusts, so Priscilla's centre of gravity is underneath the raising arm. And we bring Priscilla upright. Now what we would do is, using that weight transfer technique, to start moving our stand aid and then bring her to where we wanted to place her. We're then putting her back in the chair. Bring it to here, so that in theory Priscilla can feel the chair behind her, so that she feels safe to understand that the chair is actually there. We'd ask her to sit back down by sticking out her bottom and sitting back down in the chair. And again, this is a piece of equipment that requires 2 members of staff from SASH to use this, one to take care of the patient and the other to operate the equipment. Thank you.